Now for a review of what's making the headlines in the papers this morning, we have Dr. Constance Ikwokwe. Good morning, Dr. Constance.
Good morning, the lady in pink.
Good morning, Dr. Constance. We can see you're already blazing the Christmas feel.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You as well.
How?
Beautiful
no,
table.
Red is the color of the Christmas.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, I see. Okay, my top. Yes. I am in the Christmas mood already. Ready to go on holiday.
I think that's quite infectious.
Are you, Yolanda? Are you ready to go?
More than ready, but unfortunately, we will be here in the studios bringing the news.
Yes, it's true. It's true. No holidays for us. We have to bring the news every day. All right, let's take a look at the stories that are shaping the agenda for you today. Let's kick off with this day newspaper. What are the major themes in today's press in general? Well, several papers write about tougher laws in response to rising kidnappings. And secondly, Federal Executive Council approving a medium-term fiscal plan for 2026. There is General Christopher Musa confirmed as Minister of Defense, and government approving 100 billion naira for upgrade of training facilities, and then the death penalty punishment for kidnappers. This is across all the paper, but this day leads with that Senate story. A Nigerian Senate has passed the second reading of a bill that would classify kidnapping and hostage-taking as acts of terrorism under the Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act, carrying the death penalty with no fine or alternative sentence. In the same move, lawmakers urge that sponsors, financiers, informants and logistics providers and anyone aiding kidnapping networks also to face the death penalty under this proposed amendment. The new legal framing aims to broaden the net beyond kidnappers to anyone involved in enabling or supporting organized crime. So this reflects desperation over the rising spate of insecurity. On the window in this day, World Bank's $750 million support used $2.2 billion state-level investments under NG Cares. Daily Sun reports on the same story by lawmakers on kidnapping, while writing about Labour Party crisis, which is said to have deepened following the dissolution of the Nenadi Usman-led leadership. And AMCOM reveals it has repaid 3.6 trillion naira to the central bank. Daily Independent reads about the approval of the 2026 to 2028 medium-term expenditure framework. In that plan, the government projects revenue of 34.33 trillion naira, but includes massive debt servicing and non-recurring debt expenditure, underscoring the fiscal pressures. This indicates continued economic strain and tough fiscal decisions ahead, likely to affect public spending, social services, and borrowing. And we can see that in the lead story of the paper, where it notes that increased debt reliance and the government missing its 2025 fiscal projections. More in Daily Independent, as past Minister of Finance, Minister of Defense, Mohammed Badari says he did not resign over alleged plans to bomb his brothers. New Telegraph leads with the United States planning to impose visa restrictions on individuals that violate religious freedom in Nigeria, especially promoting violence and targeting Christians. A report had indicated the Independent National Electoral Commission for payment of or indicted rather, for payment of 5.3 billion naira for card readers. And Badari again here being quoted as saying that he did not resign over military threat. Leadership reflects on the new Minister of Defense and his vow not to negotiate with terrorists. And again, contractors are still blocking Ministry of Finance over 500 billion naira debt. And central bank removes cash deposit withdrawal while raising weekly removes cash deposit limit while raising weekly withdrawal cap. Finally, over 2.5 million naira, 2.5 million new voters registered in the ongoing exercise. That's for INEC. Overall, in Vanguard newspaper, in The Guardian and the rest, the political security establishment appears ready to use the full force of the law, including capital punishment and broader anti-terrorism powers. And economic plans will affect everyday Nigerian, especially regarding cost of living and public trust in institutions. Now, let's go to the international headlines. Today, the Times in the United Kingdom leads with mental health welfare reform and a spotlight on ADHD and benefit claims. The Department of Health and Social Care's decision to commission an independent review into the steep rise in the diagnosis of conditions like the ADHD, autism, and other mental health conditions has grabbed attention. Officials are scrutinizing whether diagnostic standards, especially via private clinics, are being stretched, particularly in light of surging benefit claims. The front page of the Daily Express warns that increases in business rates under Prime Minister Keir Starmer's government could seriously hurt high street hospitality and retail businesses, risking closures and job losses. The I newspaper leads with claims that foreign operatives may have used cargo ships and smaller ports to enter the United Kingdom undetected, visiting areas near military bases and critical infrastructure. This has prompted heightened scrutiny of dockside security and shipping routes. Alongside this, the Daily Telegraph reports on plans to expand live facial recognition technology, allowing police to match CCTV images against passport databases. Critics warn this could erode privacy of individuals. Daily Mirror turns attention to United States probe of Epstein with chilling images here of his house. Daily Mail carries an exclusive of Meghan Markle's ailing father, said to be battling for his life in a Philippines hospital. The Guardian reads about plans by the EU officials to freeze Russian assets to help Ukraine. And finally, in Financial Times, bond investors warn the U.S. Treasury of the risk involved in picking Hassett as Fed chair. Globally, it's mostly about peace efforts in Ukraine and those heightened tensions and a peace deal that seems to be faltering. Now let's break down what these headlines mean for citizens. Let's return to this day newspaper, where we talk about the lead story there about kidnappers and extending that death penalty to informants and anybody that aids and abates organized crime. Benga.
I think fundamentally the Senate, and we have seen the response from the newly confirmed Minister of Defense designate on the way forward. He has shown a robust display of experience on that, on kidnapping, and I salute the Senate for moving to expand that Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act of 2022 to accommodate and deal decisively with kidnapping and other accomplices, not just the kidnappers and other accomplices, because there is no way. Ransom payment is the goal of many of these kidnappers, and there is no way there wouldn't have been transactions for this ransom payment. So who are these people? Who are their, what's their biometrics, and where are the banks supporting this transaction? So we need to get down to this route, and banks should also be liable, and the accomplices, the transport, the logistics provider for all this should be held liable. And I think that is the way forward, because there is no way such a transaction will go on and there will be no records, there will be no data, and that also underscores the need for us to strengthen the nation's database that will reflect a real-time tracking of culprits of this heinous and very obnoxious transaction.
Very well said, Benga, because yesterday during the screening of the new Minister of Defense, General Christopher Musa, he did talk about integration of databases, that we don't have that yet in Nigeria. So that presents a huge problem when you're fighting crime. So we have all sorts of, national identity. There's the national identity card, there's the BVN, there's NIN, there's all sorts. And so all of that is not working together. So he's saying that if we want to advance this fight against crime, whether it's banditry, whether it's terrorism, it is crucial that we're able to seamlessly put this together so that once you punch a button, you have everything in front of you. And so it will be more difficult. Yeah, profiling. It will be more difficult for people to run away. And of course, he talked about linking that with banks. All this money sometimes goes through banks. Not all of them. Some of them is cash. They ask you to bring cash to the location. From the bank. Yeah, okay, withdrawing, you mean withdrawing the amount. Yes, yeah, definitely.
So I think the banks should be able to flag off when they see such a huge sum of money being moved. Yes. Or what do you think, Yolanda?
Absolutely, I very much agree. I find it very interesting that this point has come up. What I had been thinking about when I heard some of the sentiments that were shared, you know, about how we should not negotiate with terrorists, I just thought to myself, easier said than actually done. Because the truth is, we just had the 24 Kebbi schoolgirls that were kidnapped and then /rescued, released. You know, there's still, which term to use is still in contention. Arrests. Exactly, and no arrests. But the part I want to highlight is the fact that the bandits actually put out raw video footage and taunting the government, saying that, you know, you negotiated with our commanders for the release of these girls. And the reason that I bring that up is, you know, it makes it very difficult to approach a situation where we have a history of actually negotiating with these bandits. How do we now start to change that narrative completely and say we want to move away from what we've been doing? How do we do that when we have so many cases in the near past history where we are actually doing this? As well, I also want to touch on the fact that, you know, it's something that's highly contentious, the fact that we rehabilitate these bandits. You know, they undergo 6 months of training and psychosocial analysis, all of these things. Exactly. So how do we really move forward in such a situation? Easier said than done. You know,
yesterday, the former Chief of Defense Staff, General Irabor, retired now, he was asked that question about rehabilitation. And what he talked about was, he said, they call it the Operation Safe Corridor.
Yes.
In which, you know, they try to de-radicalize.
Yes, de-radicalize, yes.
Those, you know, those terrorists that are willing to lay down arms and become part of the society again. So they go through a process where they're de-radicalized, that's such a mouthful.
Yes.
And then they're sort of encouraged to get back into the society by providing skills for them and all of that. So he made it seem like a very good initiative, although it's still controversial. A lot of people still feel that some of them, at the end of the day, return to the...
Very controversial, yes. I must say, because it will mean that by extension we should decriminalize other criminal activities. Okay, they should also get that same leverage if we are going to de-radicalize banditry and other terrorist activities.
Let's see Daily Independent. There, NEC approves 100 billion naira for upgrade of training institutions for police and other security agencies. Again, we're still talking about insecurity. This is a good move as it addresses one of the root causes of weak policing: poor capacity, outdated training, and inadequate professional standards. I mean, if the schools are modernized, it will do a couple of things. It will help shift the force toward professionalism and data-driven intelligence policing. Secondly, it will equip officers with the skills for handling today's complex security challenges, because we are in another phase. Today is different from yesterday. There's all sorts of threats. And thirdly, if this is successfully done, it will help to rebuild the public trust by showing that reforms can go beyond rhetoric, you know, and to actually strengthening institutions. So you're going to be having improved facilities, curriculum, technology, which can enhance discipline, reduce abuses, and improve response time, and a lot. But on the other hand, one thing we must remember is that outside of this, if the welfare packages for police officers does not
Change.
improve. It still undermines professionalism.
Absolutely.
You know, because a hungry police officer, you know, is more prone to abuses and to do the wrong thing. And when you look at police barracks all across the country, they are in despicable conditions. There is no way someone that lives there and comes out of there will not be affected psychologically and in terms of professionalism. So beyond, you know, these training facilities, you know, and updating the curriculum, it is also important that the welfare of police officers is taken into consideration.
You know, Dr. Constance, you are right about that, but as well, I also have a point I wanted to bring on. You know, I love the initiative, it's great, it's commendable, but at the same time, we should look at, you know, we're doing the physical with this 100 billion, right? We're doing the physical changes that are needed in these institutions, but are we also doing the, you know, the upgrades in the curriculum to keep up with the technology that's changing and advancing each day? And you know, it's just great, like I said, that there's an upgrade in the institutions, but as well, how efficient are these going to be when it comes to the competence of these actual police officers? Are we just adding more numbers? What about their competency levels? Are those going to be improved as well?
I know we talked about... Okay. Benga, please.
Yeah, because I think at this point, the issue of accountability comes in, because I remember that the Nigerian Police Trust Fund was created in 2019 by the Act of the National Assembly, and this was to address the issue of welfare of the Nigerian police officer. Right. So this is a big question on the functionality of institutions in Nigeria, because if we make institutions work, many of these problems, many of these gaps that we are talking about would not be happening. And there is no need, at the risk of sounding like a broken record, we've all echoed our sentiments here severally about the state of rot in Nigeria's police training institution, and there is no way, especially now that the president is seeking an expansion of recruitment of the Nigerian police with an additional 50,000 manpower. Yes. There is no beating about the bush that there is a need for us to have a vibrant and functional training institution, and it calls for a sense of urgency in addressing this.
You know, still within that discussion, it is noteworthy that it's not only about recruiting more police officers, because what we are facing cannot be tackled only by force and by weapons and by, you know, putting more boots or soldiers on the ground. Indeed. You know. There are several things that have to be done, because according to data, 25 to 30% is only military. You know, the other is at least 70%. You know, yeah, exactly. So a lot to be done there. Let's see Daily Sun. Secretary of State of the United States Marco Rubio says the State Department will restrict visas to those who, quote, knowingly direct, authorize, fund, support, or carry out violations of religious freedom. The visa policy applies to Nigeria and other governments or individuals that persecute people over their religious beliefs. Their immediate family members may also be affected according to this. It says this is in response to the atrocities that are going on in Nigeria. Now, this is a very targeted response. Only individuals found wanting will be held responsible based on available intelligence. We've spoken for years about individuals and groups sponsoring extremism and violence. So what this does is that it will raise the personal and political cost of involvement in attacks on communities and potentially acting as a deterrent. It also transformed the debate from one of public concern, which we're always worried and concerned about, into one rooted in responsibility and consequences and international accountability. Very quick comment.
You talked about consequences and accountability. I'm in full support of that. But most importantly, we should understand that the issue of issuance of visa is a prerogative of the country issuing it, and would reflect definitely the foreign policy thrust of that country. The U.S. had maintained... But this is
a special case.
Yes, it has maintained an uncompromising stance against the genocidal attack against Christians in the country, and also the mass killings going on in the country. And every of the action has to be in a concerted form. And this is just one that we are seeing. And this reinforces the fact that anyone that indulges in this would know that there would be a consequence, which you highlighted earlier, and the need for accountability and the need for a sense of responsibility, and ultimately there would be consequences. Right. That is what the U.S. is trying to say. Or what?
Yes, I actually want to agree with you, Benga, and say ultimately it's the prerogative of each country to determine what their terms and conditions are for granting visas. So whatever the battle that might be going on at the moment silently, you know, it's the U.S.'s prerogative to decide how they grant visas. Now, I think Minister of Information and National Orientation actually put out a statement saying that despite these terms that have been given, diplomatic efforts between the U.S. and between the Nigerian federal government are still going on great. So I'd like...
We hope that will not be cabin freedom.
But of course, we had a delegation go to the U.S.
Yes.
So they are addressing the concerns. And the bottom line is this actually pushes the government to act more. Let's quickly take a final story in New Telegraph. 2026 medium-term expenditure framework approved with revenue of 34.33 trillion projected very quickly. Again, economic pressures remain acute. The government budget's plan reflects both ambition and strain, highlighting how fiscal realities may shape policy and public services over the coming year. So this fiscal plan underscores the tough balancing act that the government needs to do between managing deficits while responding to pressing needs that we have, security, social welfare, economic growth, just quite a bit going on in that port. We're almost out of time, so let's quickly go to the international headlines. Ukraine-Russia war update, Yolanda.
Talks have ended without a breakthrough, unfortunately. Moscow has rejected the proposed peace deal. Now, the question that we have is, what is the end goal for Putin? What does he want in all of this? If he's not agreeing to what has been brought forward and not willing to negotiate in a way that is a push and pull, what is it that he actually wants to
Luhansk
achieve?
and Donetsk.
He wants territory. So this has been, his goal from day one. And so he's not moving an inch, and the Europeans also are not. So we don't know how this ends. But these were your headlines today.
Thank you very much.